to MyCollegeCoaches video coaching series. My name is Sarah, and I'll be your coach today for the College Search 101. In this session, we'll discuss how many schools you should try to narrow your list of applications down to. We'll consider the different factors you should use in coming up with your list. We'll talk about some of the places you can do to research these factors, and we'll talk about different sorts of ways that you can narrow your list. We'll also sort of get into the little college visit talk, sort of the things you ought to talk about when you're there, the questions to ask, and the places that you should go for advice. So first up, how many schools should you look to apply to? Realistically, we recommend that you apply at least to 4 different schools. You want to apply to 1 reach school, sort of the school that you're not sure you could get into. 2 good fits, schools that you're confident you should get into, and then 1 safety school, a school that you are very, very confident you would be admitted to. On the other end of the spectrum, we sort of recommend that you don't apply to any more than 10 to 12 different schools. 10 to 12 allows you to go after more of your reach schools, sort of to play the odds, if you will. It also helps to apply to more schools if you're uncertain about your financial aid situation. More applications means more chances for a generous package. The reason we'd say don't go above 12 is because the difficulty and complexity of college applications is such that too many of them and the quality will suffer for all of them. You got to think that you've got essays and recommendation letters and supplements and scores to send for each and every application. Doing more than 12 and something's going to fall through the cracks, something you just don't want to have happen. So there are a lot of different factors to consider, and you can see them listed here. We're going to go through each of them one by one and sort of give you why we think it's important and what to consider about it. So first up is location. Now, you might think that this is not the most important part of your college search, but location can often be the fastest way to narrow your list. Your first question, in-state or no? This is particularly important if you're looking at public schools, as it's the lowest tuition you'll probably find. Once you get to in-state or no, how far from home? Think of it in hours of a drive, or whether or not you're comfortable taking a plane or a train to get home. How far from home is not always even in what state, or the same state. You got to figure there are some states out there like Texas and California where it could be a 6 or 7 hour drive home from certain parts. Once you deal with that and you've narrowed your list that way, think about whether or not you want to be in a city. A lot of great schools are in a lot of really big cities, and some students just aren't comfortable with that, whereas other students absolutely want to be in the big city. Finally, consider if there's any geographically relevant activities you want to be doing in college. For example, if you want to ski, Florida's probably not your best choice. If you want to surf, Iowa's probably not going to do so much either. If you want to intern on Capitol Hill, probably not going to be so useful anywhere but Washington, D.C., or sort of that Northern Virginia, Southern Maryland area. Sort of the same thing with Wall Street. Make sure you're within sort of that stone's throw if you want to be in a certain sector. Next up is cost. Some of us don't have to worry about this, but for the rest of us, cost is a huge issue when it comes to picking our colleges to apply to. The first question is public or private. Not always totally clear, but just start here. Public in-state tuition is probably the lowest you're going to find. Public out-of-state tuition can be as high as many private schools. Private schools also run a pretty wide gamut of costs. So while the public v. private thing is an issue, the actual cost of the school you need to do more research about. Consider what the average financial aid package is for the specific schools that you're looking at. These vary widely by school, and so you need to look at each and every one. It wouldn't be doing you justice to just say, no, I won't apply to any private schools because it's just too expensive. Some schools have fantastic financial aid programs, and for some students in some situations, it can be the absolute cheapest you can go. Finally, and this doesn't get enough play, consider going to a community college first, or at least consider going to an in-state public school for 2 years and then transferring to that more expensive big school that you want your final diploma from. The 4-year degree is the same, regardless of where you started out. But that community college start can be a real cost saver. Think about it, particularly based on your location, because states have different programs. But for example, from Virginia, where I am now, if you go to one of the community colleges and get a particular GPA after your first 2 years, you have automatic admission into any public school in the state, including the likes of UVA, which consistently ranks in the top 25 to 30 schools in the country. That's a big deal and a huge cost saver. Next, your program of study. You're going to college to study. So make sure that the majors and the minors that you are interested in are at the schools you are going to apply to. Obviously, sounds kind of obvious. And the reason that we don't put program of study as your first consideration is because for most of you it won't narrow the list down very quickly. Every school pretty much has the math major, the science major, the English major, the psych major, and the poli-sci major. Some majors are a little less common. Engineering is, at fewer schools. Some majors, say athletic training, are actually kind of hard to find, and so they may be your first reason, your first factor to consider when looking at your list. Beyond just the majors and minors, find out about the policies. Are double majors allowed? Are double minors allowed? How hard is it to change your major once you've declared one? And when do you need to declare one? As you're coming in? After your first year? After your second year? These types of things are important to consider based on what you know about yourself. If you do know where you want, specifically your program and your major, look into the professors and the curricula at every school. See if the courses that you would be taking and who you would be taking them from are the types of people and things that's what you want in your college experience. Also look at the opportunities that the different departments offer. Do they promote internships? Some of them may require them. Do they let you study abroad? Do they make you study abroad? Some schools, particularly if you're going to do a language major, require you to study abroad in that country for 1 or 2 semesters. Also look for consortia agreements. A consortium agreement is where schools in a particular geographic area, often in cities, will allow students to take courses at sister schools in the area. This significantly broadens the number of courses you could possibly take, so keep it in mind. And also, finally, if you don't know what you want to major in, make sure you pick schools to apply to that have a larger number of potential programs and a large range, because you don't really want to be penned in when you do have to declare a major because you didn't pick a school that has everything you might have wanted. Next up is reputation. The first consideration with reputation is how competitive that reputation makes admission to that school. We all know that Harvard's a fantastic school. We also know it's really, really hard to get into because of it. Next, why is reputation important to you? How important is it? Is it a good reason, or is it just because you want that diploma on your wall? How important it is to your future. So consider what you would like to be doing. What sort of employment? Are you looking to get a job straight out of college? Is the school you're looking at known in the community, both the geographic community and the professional community in which you want to work? Are you looking to go to graduate school afterwards? Are you looking to get into one of the best graduate schools in the country where your undergrad name might be more important? Also give some thought to how reputation affects the bottom line. How much more expensive will it be for you to go to a school with a big reputation than somewhere else? Also consider if you're giving up anything by going to a great name school. Are you giving up a program at a smaller, less well-known school that might be better suited to what you want? These are all things to consider and just other things to deal with on the list. Once you've gotten to this point, you might have already narrowed down your list, but the campus feel is a big deal. You're going to be living in this school probably for the next 4 years, and it's likely the first place you've lived by yourself away from home. Do you want that old New England feel, or are you okay with something more contemporary? Do you want to be integrated into a big city where you don't really have quads and big lawns to play on? Are you okay with the dorms